This is a first for Amherst, and I'll give credit to where credit's due. And it started back with the previous council and their discussions, and the town staff, quite frankly, came up with this along with Cumberland County. They were trying to figure out, well, how can we do this? How can we make this housing project work? And between the two administrators for each municipality and town and county, they said, well, why don't we just allow the town to take that in? That way we don't have to change the world. And in turn, we trade off some services. So really a good example of cooperation and collaboration between both the county and the town, even back then. And so, I think it's a win for certainly Amherst, and it's a win for the county. And I know that they're already looking at how to develop those areas, the lands that are around the town. And what's good for Amherst is good for the county. What's good for the county is good for Amherst. That's just how it works.
Yeah, but the process I was thinking of is that you can't do this on your own, even though you and the county have agreed. You need the support. You need the rubber stamp, if you will. I shouldn't have used that term. You need the authority given by a provincial board. So do you make the application? Do they make it, or do you do it jointly?
We'd be doing it jointly for sure. And there'll be no argument about it, and it's already been discussed. Preliminary discussions have already been had, so it won't be an issue at all.
Well, you're taking over a piece of land that has the possibility of allowing a construction of about 400 homes. Now, where does that fit with the current town boundary?
Our boundary goes out to just the midpoint of I used to call it the Dolan property, and because back then the Dolan family had their farm there, and used to go to school with the kids. But they, the soccer complex went there for quite a while, and so it kind of splits right down the middle of the field that the property lies on. So what we're in fact going to do is it's one property, and it's one PID, I guess is the best way to put it, property identification. And we're going to take over that particular PID. Doesn't mean the homes around it, because there's our homes that are positioned close by or even within, but not that particular PID. So that's going to allow the full development of that property. And, great volunteers through the YMCA and great workers, and talk about collaboration. The fact that Shaw, the YMCA, the credit union, the River Phillip Foundation, all gotten together to come up with this way to develop affordable housing. It's a remarkable project that is just going to give people who cannot afford the regular rents that there are today, or even the regular mortgages that there are today, and the amount of money you need just to get into a home. This project is one that's going to see people get into homes that would normally not be able to, and or at least not be able to in their early years. I remember when my wife and I first got married, we didn't have any money. They talk about affordable housing. My goodness, we didn't. We were broke. But we got married, and we had kids, and you managed to get through it all. And I think that this is an opportunity for people. And from my understanding, they've had already over 100 applicants that they need to peel through and select for the initial housing. Now, they're already in construction of more homes up there, so it's been a success so far.
Well, and you've addressed a number of issues, frankly, but the one issue that you didn't address is one that we don't think about very often, and that is that your town, any town, becomes landlocked, if you will, over time. You set out some boundaries, you drew lines and said, okay, beyond this line, that's the town of Amherst, and outside that line, that's the municipality of Cumberland. And the town grows. It's the way what towns do. Towns become cities quite often, and so on. But you reach the point where you've reached to fill all the land that you have available, and you cannot grow any further unless you're able to come up with a plan, such as you've done here, to expand into somebody else's land by making a deal with them that works for them and works for you. But it really kind of underscores the need for considering, how do you grow in the future? Because you only have so much land. I always joke about the price of land keeps going up because God isn't making any more. And,
Right.
and eventually you run out. So is there any concern in your current council that you may come to a point where Amherst cannot get any bigger?
Oh, I suppose that is the case. I mean, we are a postage stamp in the middle of a big county, and but a lot of towns, how they're addressing is they're building up instead of out. And but we do have some developments where they're 3- and 4-story apartment buildings going up, and some others that have been discussed as far as further development. So I don't think we're there yet, and we do have still quite a bit of vacant land that needs to be developed. But yeah, you're right. At some point, God willing, we get lots of people that move to the area, and they love this part of Nova Scotia. And you know what? I can't predict the future, but let's get there first.
Yeah, let's get there. Maybe not in our time, but I mean, we'll put a circle around it on the calendar today that Mayor Rob Small says there will be a day when we'll start building high rises, but not in our time. Not in our time.
Yeah,
but that kind of points to another issue that came up at council last night. You approved the spending of $50,000 for a feasibility study. I hate that word, but a feasibility study of transit operations, public transit in the town. And, we talk about Cumberland County Transit and how they'll get you to and from appointments and so on. But real metropolitan transit involves owning a bunch of buses and or subways or who knows what. And are we seeing the very, very thin edge of that wedge now, talking about a transit facility, especially now that you're moving further out of the core and adding 400 units, for example? Is this kind of tied together with that?
Well, I won't say it's tied together. When this came about as part of the election, we heard from citizens who said, we really do need a bus service here. And so all of council heard that as part of our strategic planning. We said, well, we need to look into it to see if this makes sense for the town. And I know other little towns have them. And I'm not talking about some 10 or 12 bus system at this point. I mean, we're talking about a couple of buses that'll do a loop in the town, a standardized flow, regular route, and we're hoping to include even the hospital in that loop. Even though it might be out in the county, it doesn't matter. We're going to see if we can't include that. But we got to follow the steps that are in front of us as far as first doing the feasibility study, getting the report, and then we're going to be seeking funding to help us cover some of the costs associated with a bus system, because it is a green initiative. It is an opportunity for us to get less vehicles used and more people out and about and using the bus service. And I've seen a few others, and I like what I see. So I think that there's a definite benefit to the town. Now, will we make any money at it? No. It'll be one of those services that costs money, not for profits. Let's put it that way.
Well, and there are lots of those already. You cannot make money, for example, on your supply of water. Sewer systems don't make money. Schools don't make money. Hospitals don't make money. They're part of the services that one community would need and provide. So there's lots of that. I don't think anybody's expecting you to turn a profit on a bus system or anything like that. But we're talking about the growth of the town, continued growth of the town, and we see another example of that, a small one, mind you, but you've been running a kind of summer recreation program in the parks and facilities in the town, hire some summer students to run the programs for you, and the last couple of years that program has grown rather big, and this year exploded with people wanting in on it to the point where you couldn't provide all the needs. And I think you're looking at hiring a few extra students, but even that's going to come up short. What's the cause of this dramatic increase in people seeking to be part of the town parks programs?
Well, I think it's more than one item that might be causing it. One is certainly new people coming to Amherst, and with their children, and affordability is another issue. What do? Things are tight. Can we get into some programs that the town is offering? I think that's part of it. I think the idea of staying home this year instead of traveling all over the place, stay and play kind of thoughts, it plays a role in it. I think the fact that the programs have been successful over the last few years, and word spreads. It's kind of like any organization where if things are going positive, they'll continue to go positive and grow. And I think that's the case as well. So I don't think it's just one thing, but I do know that we will need to take a look at our resources for next year, because we do want to make sure that we take care of as many as possible that want to be in the programs.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is turn somebody away from a summer program. And, you're going to be doing that this year, unfortunately. But it's I guess, a good problem to have, because you know now that what you're doing is serving a need, and people like it, and you want more of it. So that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, it sure is.
Now, those are the top three things that I identified from yesterday's agenda. I know there were a couple of presentations made, but I'm wondering, is there something that I've missed the importance of that you're more aware, something that needs to be mentioned here and fleshed out with a little more detail in our conversation?
Well, I would like to talk just a little bit about tourism and the fact that the presentation last night with Explore Cumberland, and that really is a good foundation for the town and the county, and quite frankly, all of Cumberland, to start to work together on how to promote our area. And we do plan, between us and the county of Cumberland, do plan to have meetings that follow up in terms of, we've asked staff for some reports on potential opportunities where we can continue to promote and improve on our promotion for tourism for this area come fall. So I'm looking forward to having those discussions because even though we've got a good foundation, we need to keep moving forward with promotion for our area. And I'm all about. I hope we can convince them to come to Amherst and stay in Amherst and visit all of the, I call them the gold nuggets around Amherst and Cumberland County, because we have a lot to offer in our county. And I'm hoping that we can really promote starting in the spring of next year.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. A lot of, kind of touching the heartstrings video. And, of course, that's where it's at today. People can go to a website, any website, anywhere, and they're likely going to find video because it reaches people. We've become learners from video. We started out with perhaps you and I, in fact, learning from television on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And we've since grown to use the internet for our television as well. And so they've got a compelling website, no question. I was a little concerned, the numbers that they were talking about. And, of course, when you start talking about how many people are visiting your site and they start talking about click-throughs and all that kind of stuff, it's a hodgepodge, and you can't prove it and you can't verify it. And you rely on Google and Facebook and other people to tell you how many. Nobody can actually tell you how many. But I was a little concerned. The numbers were in the hundreds of people coming to see, and they should be in the thousands. And if some of your councillors asked a very good questions about how do you want to build up the response here. I think Deputy Mayor Davidson, for example, said you might be well advised to talk to local small retail businesses because they're the ones who greet the people, and they come through the door looking to buy an extra pair of socks or something, and the next thing they say is, where should we go to visit? What's the highlights in your town? And
Yeah.
that, that's true. The small business gets the first contact. And
Yeah.
we have people who build websites like this for government, let's be honest here, and they forget that there are people already in business, and they can be a great
Exactly.
help. And a case in point is the websites used to be able to connect through the newspapers, but the newspapers are gone. And
Yeah.
yet you still
Yeah.
have radio. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, I rather suspect they say they do advertising, digital advertising. That probably means Facebook and so on, reaching out to billionaires to give them some more money. They don't talk to local
Yeah.
radio. I can tell you that
Yeah.
because I've covered the Explore Cumberland presentations at different councils a number of times, and
Right.
yet they never ever issue a press release, a call for help, a phone call to say, "Can we do something with you?" We're in the same boat. We're a website as well. But we added the radio component. We're adding a video component to moving toward a sort of TV sort of presentation. And we could help them, but they never ask.
Okay, well, that's good to know as well. The other point that I wanted to make was that for this year, anyway, we've hired a student for tourism purposes, and the goal for this year, this summer season, is they're going to spend some time over at the Tourist Bureau at the border, and also some time in Amherst and asking questions about, where are you from, why are you here, how'd you know about it, all those questions associated with the whys, so that we can gather some real information on, where they come from, and how come they're here, and how can we exploit that in terms of our plans for the future. So, including business, Deputy Mayor Davidson made an excellent point about the local businesses can be the ambassador, and we need to educate and help them know what's available and what's going on as well. So those points are all very valid, and those are the things we need to do.
Well, I think
But it takes time.
it takes time. You're right. The point I was really trying to say is that we are, as you've said before, we are all in this together. What's good for the town is good for the county, and vice versa. And here I sit every day, Monday to Friday, and the capacity to do more, and would love to help. We have world-class events and functions and facilities in Cumberland County. You go from the Geopark in the south to world-class accommodations at Fox Harbor in the north, and everything in between. And people, visitors to our province, come zipping on through on the Trans-Canada Highway, headed to either Peggy's Cove or Cabot Trail, and they go right through a piece of heaven without even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We need to talk among ourselves a little bit more, I think, to realize that you don't build a website and expect the world to change.
No,
it's like getting business cards printed, and then you keep them in your pocket.
Yes, that's so true. The Christie Foundation has been a real supporter of Cumberland County.
Big time
projects, and I did want to just recognize the amount of support that they've given over the years and continue to give, and just a big thank you to them for continuing to support local organizations that need a little help.